I've gone ahead and turned down the music to almost nothing, I think. Come on. OBS, why are you saying that there's no music at all? Okay, there we go. Oh, because you're doing flat minuses on that. Okay. So probably around there works. Okay. Let me get into my discussing of why I think Duels in its current state is bad. It doesn't feel like it's just King. I'll just go ahead and say that now. It has nothing to do with the challenges. It has nothing to do with the compendiums. It has nothing to do with the way that you move. It has nothing to do with the lore of the game. It has nothing to do with the event spaces and how you navigate the map. It has nothing to do with the bosses, and it has nothing to do with the music. It's like 8 different things that it completely discards from the base game. And I think that's really a shame, because the base Just King is really innovative and brings a lot of new things to the table and mixes and matches things very well. Duels does not do that. I understand that Duels is not intended to take the same amount of work to make as the base game. I 110% understand that. This is more so if I were to make Just King have a Duels game mode that was corely integrated into it and matched with everything perfectly. This is the way I would do it. And step 1, you would have this screen. That's right. Duels, you would be able to choose different options on here. Zone 5 would be the PvP zone. And then Zone 1, 2, 3, and 4 would have rotating weekly bosses and different things. So let's say you go to Zone 1, then you're going to have, I don't know, all units gain +5 int. Let's say you go over to Zone 2, and you have, in this zone, your units are going to move 20% slower or something. Then you go over to Zone 3, and it has some other thing. And these are just constant effects that happen that change things up. Like, I don't know, make it so in Zone 4 you can only have 3 units or something. Make it crazy. Make it fun. Each one of these, you would have different music. So rather than hearing the same track over and over and over again with Duels, you get to show off all the different soundtracks and stuff. Then, what would happen next? Well, let's go ahead and you would see the screen. And you would have the option to fight a player team or fight an AI team. And don't worry about making like 50 billion new AI teams for Duels and stuff. We would just reuse similar teams from this. And the goal would be that the king, aka the guy who pays the mercenaries, got kidnapped, but he dropped his crown, so they can still, like, do all of the things they can do, but they can't be, like, rallied around the king or anything. That's their story. You would get to choose between event spaces that give you unique items. You would get to choose between regular spaces, and then instead of elites, you would get to choose to fight a player team that passed through here. And then at the end, you would have to choose between getting a regular treasure or having your team fight a really tough team. Or, no, that wouldn't really fit for Duels. You would just be able to see the team at the end, and you would be able to see that at all times. So you would know, hey, I am going to, at the end of this, fight a level 3 Sarkmancer and all this other stuff. That way you can build your team around it and decide, what do I want to build in order to fight against this? That would be interesting to me. That way you can build against it. You can be like, okay, I'm in a zone that has, like 5 extra int. I'm fighting a team that's going to have these. I want to build my team like this, and I'm going to go in there while listening to the cool-ass music tracks, and then when you're fighting against the boss team, then you get to hear the boss theme of the area and stuff. And so we would leave Duels in its current state for just a Zone 5, because that would be really hard to even do in Duels, where, like, both sides of the arena are their own things, so we would leave Zone 5 as just pure PvP. But then if you want to chill, relax, have casual Duels experience, you would be able to choose between these different zones. And that, I think, would draw in a lot more of the players. Because then, rather than getting absolutely wiped by random teams and stuff, you would have different places you can go to. Now, the problem with this is that you have to run like 5 different Duels servers and stuff, but I don't really know the technical side of things. Maybe you can just, like, at the start of week, take the teams or whatever and then put them into a patch or something for all of these guys, and you wouldn't have to update it as regularly. So it'd get a bit more stale easier, like, it gets stale faster, but there'd be all these different options to choose from. So if you're getting tired of fighting the same teams over and over in Zone 1, you can go and try Zone 3. Now, fighting the bosses and stuff is not going to really be an option, because in Duels, it doesn't really... A lot of the bosses have the requirement that you move to dodge certain attacks, and programming the AI to do that would just not work out. But that would be my way of making a you don't control the characters kind of auto-battler system and everything. And then, guess what the fun part is? After you successfully, like, rescue the king and stuff, maybe some other people kidnap him, and you can click the loop button, and you get sent into Zone 2 with your team. Because why the hell not? You would be able to loop the first 4 zones and take your team through it and try to fight the boss area of Zone 1, the boss of Zone 2, the boss of Zone 3, and the boss of Zone 4, after going through and collecting more items and stuff. And, yeah. And the thing is if you're worried about, oh, we'd have to make, like, so many boss teams and stuff for, like, the weeklies and stuff, you have me, you have Harrison, you have Lamp, you have the guys who are playing Duels right now who would be more than happy to submit team ideas and be like, hey, this is going to be my team for Zone 3, I want to use, like, double Sharkmancer with these items, or, oh, hey, I'm going to have, like, a Lich and Cleric team for this thing, and everybody in the community would help contribute to make this a cool thing. I'm sure of it. But that way, 1, we get back to the going through different nodes and being able to choose your path. 2, we get back to knowing what the boss is going to be. 3, we get back to being able to do it casually. Oh, and instead of win streaking and stuff, just make the current win streak options, like, choosable. So you could go easy, medium, hard, and that would just input the win streak equivalents, except for Zone 5. So you would have, like, the -2 strength version for everything except the boss fight and all of those. We can incorporate those as just the difficulty options of fun, normal, and wicked. Easy fix there. Do I think this is going to happen? No, because Just King is a built game. It is kind of done in that regard, and this would take a lot of work to make. Probably like 6 months or something. 3, I don't know. But this is what it would take for me to come back to Duels. Because in its current state of just getting wrecked by RNG and PvP with no real remnants of the original game, that kind of suck. And then, what happens when you have 4 different zones that all have different things? You can bring the challenges back. You can have beat Zone 1 in Duels on Wicked difficulty or something as a challenge. Or you can have, like, burn down the forest in Duels, bring 2 imps to Zone 1, in, I don't know, in return you unlock, I don't know, bigger devil horns for the imp or something. Or maybe nothing, just something fun to do to add more achievements in. Because right now, the only reason to play Duels is because you want to play Duels, and Duels isn't the most fun. For me, currently. So, that would bring you back the challenges. That would bring you back the compendium, because you would get to go to event spaces and bring back the items and stuff. And while synergies aren't in the game, maybe you could bring those back for the PvE version, but that is not at all a requirement. You would be able to get, like, the cool items, like the not a pipe and reliable toolbox and stuff. And, yeah, they'd be blatantly overpowered. I mean, 25% health in Duels would be absolutely ridiculous. But that'd be okay. Except in Zone 5, which is Duels as it stands now, none of the going to places, all of that stuff. That is, in my opinion, how I would take Duels as a Just King game mode and make it more Just King and not just an auto-battler. Because right now, I don't even know what Duels run this is. Turn desync me? Oh no, apparently I just have a Duels run. Well, we're gonna lose this, because I don't know what the fuck's happening. But you would be able to take it from just an auto-battler, where anyone would be able to take the stats of these units and put them on a new sprite and say, this is my totally original auto battler. Because right now, that's kind of... is there a, like... Yeah, there is a way, okay. Because right now, there's not a whole lot that makes this auto battler different than other auto battlers. Like, I could probably go mock up some game, some crappy mobile game called fucking Monster Fighter 27 and put this together and just say, okay, Oni, you're now, I don't know, Elf Lady and all that stuff, because it doesn't have the mechanics that make Just King Just King. It is literally just an auto battler. And it is unique in that in the token system, that's probably the biggest thing that it drew from the original Just King, is that you have tokens, so rather than needing to merge 3 Elf Lady to make a stronger version of Elf Lady, tier 2 star or whatever, you can mix and match using the tokens. That's probably the most different thing. Other than that, it's put monsters on a board and make them fight and equip them with items. And honestly, I think it can be a lot more than that. I don't expect it to happen, though. Maybe if I go on boot.dev and learn how to do coding and sit, sure. Now, with Duels stuff out of the way, I do want to mention that I had an idea for just an expansion to Just King. This would be if I was an actual programmer and wanted to do modding content and stuff, and I would need a hell of a lot of help to get this done. But this is more like Just King DLC for $3 or something. You make a castle map in the center down here, which is the King's Castle. The map effect would be that in the corners, once the wave starts, are going to start spawning enemies, and you have to go and capture a point in order to stop the enemies from spawning, and they'd just be like basic enemies and stuff, and that'd be the level design. The new faction added would be the nobles, and I have plans for like an engineer guy where, like Champ, he runs over to the corner of the arena, and if he's there for long enough, then a giant meteor hits a group of enemies like an archer barrage, but like a really big single target hit, and then he has to recharge, because what he's doing is basically he's going to the edge of the screen and ordering a hit on the screen, and then the noble would do something, and I don't know much plans beyond that. The region boss would be a giant dragon. You fight it, and then once it's defeated and it's hanging on the edge of the castle or whatever, it falls to the ground and takes the king with him, and then it's the king 1v1ing the dragon at the bottom of the map, and all of the different zones end up sewing up, because your team is stuck at the top of the castle, and so, like when enemies would spawn in from the sides, now we would have Duels AI controlled, like, it'd start with Woodlander units sewing up, and you'd be fighting against the first boss, and then, the snow boss would sew up, and, you'd get, Viking and an Ice Witch, and then the third zone boss would sew up, and it'd be like really fast, lower HP versions of them that the dragon is basically summoning, because he got the crown. And then once you beat the Zone 5 version, you fight a revamped version of the dragon, and if you win, then all is good. If you lose, then you unlock the rest of the expansion, where basically the dragon now has the crown, and all of these zones get a Sado version. And in those Sado versions, you would have new bosses. So, you know how for Zone 1 you go in and you unlock the Woodlanders? Well, in this version, you'd go in here and you would fight a Hot Hands boss, basically. And you would go into the keep and you'd have to fight the strategist bosses instead of the dragon. Well, I have more plans for that. But you'd have the protagonists who would probably be in the... Well, these guys would probably be in the snow biome. These guys would probably be the first one. And like how there are Sado versions of the main cast, you would fight like how in basically Zone 1 you'll find Sado versions of these guys as the elites, you would find Sado versions of these guys. And the idea is that in this Sado realm, basically, the Woodlanders are the good guys, and the zones here are the good guys, and the heroes that you've had are the bad guys. So you beat up bosses based off of all the different heroes that you have for Sado-y versions of each of these zones. And that's my cool idea. And then the best idea that I have is that basically once you get 4 of a unit tribe, you're able to merge them into the boss for zone. So if you have 4 Woodlanders, then you'd be able to merge them into a version of the Archdruid that you can add to your party. Same with this guy, same with these guys, and you'd basically be able to recruit them to your team. And the Sado versions would get you boss versions of those ones. So you'd have a boss version of the Hot Hands that you fight here. Once you beat them, then you unlock the 4 Hot Hands mini version of that boss. And then once you go through, you collect all of these different super powerful units. You end up going back to the castle, and then you have to use your newfound ability to have the super bosses, and you get to go and fight Sado version of the dragon with a super crown, and it's an ultimate showdown of ultimate destiny or whatever. And you have to go through the dragon's castle, and so there's 5 different paths at the bottom, and you go through one, and it's the Hot Hands path. You beat the Hot Hands boss, and then you're sent back to the start, and you have to do this one, this one, this one, this one, and each time you do it, then it gets harder, so you still get to choose, like, where you're going on the map, and complete, like, I don't know, 3 out of 5 doors before you're able to go to the dragon boss fight, and each one you go to, it'll be either a Hot Hands boss or a regular boss. Basically, just choose 3 bosses that you want to fight in order, and then you get to go to fight the dragon, and they'll be, again, the mini versions that he would summon in the original fight. Once you're done with all of that, you fought the 3 out of 5 that you wanted to, you go in and you fight the dragon, and it'll be cool Shadow Dragon boss fight, and this time when you're fighting him, he'll occasionally, like, replace one of your team members with a different one. So kind of like how Zone 2 boss kind of kidnaps your guy, puts him in ice, he would say, well, your frontline tank is now an archer. And he'd be using the evil powers of the crown, and then you beat him up in some epic fight, and yay. That would be my idea for a DLC to the game. Is it going to happen? No. Why? 'Cause I am not a modder. I would 110% be willing to learn how to do modding in order to get it done, but I've also got life stuff going down, and I'm not able to commit like 5 hours a day to this project much as I would like to. I've got ideas for where I can, like, oh, we can just copy this thing and mess around with it and paste it over there. We can copy this thing, mess it around, and paste it over there in order to make it easier without having to start every boss idea from scratch, every unit from scratch. But in the end, it's just an idea. I am an ideas guy. That is why I am a game tester and not a game maker. Alright. I thank you guys for listening to my wild ideas for the future of the game. I know none of them are going to happen, But if they did, that'd be pretty cool. All right. See you guys.